The night Elias was born, the sky tore open with thunder. Lightning clawed across the mountains that sheltered the village of Brackenvale. Inside a candle-lit cottage, the midwife gasped as she lifted the crying infant into the air. A mark swirled on his tiny wrist, like a spiral carved by invisible hands. "Fate has touched this child," she whispered, her eyes wide. "The old prophecies spoke of one born with the spiral. His path is already written." His mother clutched him protectively. "He's just a child," she protested, but the whispers had already begun. Word spread like fire in the village. Elias was not ordinary. As Elias grew, strange events seemed to follow him. At the age of 5, while playing by the river, he slipped and was pulled into its roaring current. Villagers screamed and rushed to help, but before anyone could reach him, the boy's body was caught, not by chance, but by the branches of an ancient willow tree that bent low over the water. That tree, his grandfather had planted decades earlier, in that very spot. The villagers called it fate. His mother called it luck. Elias was too young to understand. Years later, Elias, now 10, wandered too far into the woods while chasing a hare. As darkness crept over the trees, he realized he was lost. Fear gripped him until the crunch of footsteps broke the silence. A man emerged carrying a lantern. He was a traveling merchant, taking a path no one else in Brackenvale even knew existed. "Strange place for a boy to be wandering," the man said, studying Elias. "But don't worry, the road home lies this way." When Elias asked why the merchant had come at all, the man only smiled. "Because I was meant to." That night, Elias lay awake, wondering, was that true, or was it just coincidence? By the time Elias reached 17, the weight of the villagers' whispers suffocated him. Fated child. Marked one. Chosen. He hated the words. "I am not a puppet," he told his mother one night. "If my life is already decided, then what's the point of living it? I'll prove to them, and to the gods, that I choose my own path." He left before dawn, carrying only bread, a flask of water, and determination. He would run far from Brackenvale, far from the destiny people claimed was his. But as the forest thickened, he stumbled into a clearing where an old woman sat by a fire, spinning wool on a spindle of silver. Without looking up, she said, "So, you've arrived at last." Elias froze. "Do I know you?" The woman's eyes lifted, sharp and ancient. "I am the one who spins your thread." She held up the spindle. A golden line of thread stretched from it, glowing faintly. Elias shook his head. "No, that's impossible." "Is it?" Her voice was like the wind through dry leaves. "The river did not kill you. The merchant found you in the woods. Even your rebellion brought you here. Every step you have taken was woven long before you were born." Anger burned in Elias. "Then what am I? A slave? Why give me will if every choice is already chosen?" The weaver smiled gently. "Because living the thread is not the same as seeing it. You are not meant to know the end, only to walk toward it. Fate is not a prison, child. It is a map." She let the golden thread slip through her fingers. The fire crackled. Then, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. The clearing lay empty, save for the faint glimmer of thread in the air, which faded as Elias reached for it. Years passed. Elias traveled far and wide, becoming a soldier, then a commander. He never forgot the weaver's words, though he tried to dismiss them, until the day the kingdom was threatened. An enemy army, vast and merciless, descended upon the land. The king's generals faltered, yet Elias rose, rallying men with courage that seemed to burn from within him. He led them into battle, and against all odds, they triumphed. When the songs of victory spread across the kingdom, people said, it was his destiny. He was born for this. And though Elias laughed with his men, inside he remembered the glimmer of golden thread and the woman who had said, "Every step brings you closer." He finally understood. He had always walked the path written for him, not because he was forced, but because fate had quietly shaped every moment. And so he lived not in fear of destiny, but in reverence of it.